Welcome to the Financial Legacy Podcast. I am your host, Maria Ellis. On every episode, I will bring you my perspective and the perspective of my guest on financial planning and estate planning issues. Here on the Financial Legacy Podcast, we're changing lives one person at a time by creating your own financial plan and your own financial legacy. To help you create and enjoy your financial success, connect with us at financiallegacy.live for your complimentary consultation. Based on the request and the numerous emails that I have received regarding my recent book, Family Business Legacy Plan, the ultimate guide to creating a legacy for your family without paying too much money in taxes, today, I'm going to share with you some ideas about how to create and implement a family business legacy plan that is in alignment with your business values, with your family and your business values. So creating the right foundation for your family business legacy is really a long-term project based on your values and allowing a space for each generation to find their own passion. Each family member must earn a place within the organization and needs to be compensated accordingly, either with tangible or intangible benefits. Your job as an entrepreneur, you have a delicate task of regularly applying the family values and properly train each generation according to their passion and talents and within the organization mission and vision. Most business owners do not have a clear vision as to when and how they should start to create a family business legacy, and therefore they often wait until the last minute and they end up with enormous amount of money that they have to pay on taxes because they have not planned properly. However, some experienced business owners decide in advance to give away a percentage of their company ownership to their children, for instance, during their lifetime, in order to teach their children how to be responsible for what they received and they could also receive in the future. You can give during your lifetime and have your children become legally responsible and encourage them to do the right things for the organization and for themselves in order to preserve the family business legacy. Another important factor that you should remember is to surround yourself with competent advisors. For instance, your attorney, your tax advisor, and of course family members that are going to help you create a successful business legacy plan. Also, an important aspect of the business owner is to plan for the children who work within the organization. The family succession is often well received by the business stakeholders when they see family continuity, younger family members working in the business and generating new and better ideas to improve the overall profitability of the organization. That's always well received by the stakeholders. For example, one of my clients decided to create and to implement a family business succession. This particular entrepreneur is in the third generation of the family business, and she owns 100% of the company shares. And she wants to be able to continue that same tradition. She feels responsible and wants to protect the well-being of her employees and want to respect their hopes and their dreams, which are based on the success of her business. This entrepreneur believes that inheriting a family business is not a property right, but is in fact a responsibility. She also believes that most important issues are how to train and educate the children. Being very careful not to spoil them and helping develop a strong self-esteem, for instance, with values and reasonable ambition, reasonable need to continue to prosper. Also, a bond that holds the family together is being very transparent. So you as the business owner need to keep that in mind and be as transparent as possible, being generous and letting each child uh, talk to each child to see what their dreams are, supported the family members, and providing really a safe place for them to deal with personal and business conflicts and also learn by their mistakes. So allowing your young children, or in this case, young adults that are working for your organization, giving them some freedom to make mistakes while you're still operating in the business is important because you could help minimize any mistakes that they make, and that's a good learning experience for your children, people that are going to be taking over the company. There are many different models, legacy models, but the most important issue is to make a plan, a family plan, that it is including the family, that is going to work with the family and not against the family. Therefore, you need to have the input of all the family members because they're all stakeholders and they all want to be able to contribute to the organization. And so you need to make sure that communication and transparency is very important. So a clear understanding about how to address potential difficult issues and having a mechanism in place to allocate and to be able to discuss and arrive at the right decisions is important. Given your younger, your children who are working within the organization, responsibilities is critically important as well in order to sustain and preserve the legacy for future generations to come, because it makes them feel like they are trusted and of course they are trained properly to be able to execute that particular job. So it's a win-win for all parties involved. One thing that I found most interesting about the this particular third generation business owner when I was working with her, is that the members of the family believe that they are the keepers of the tangible wealth and the intangible goodwill created by their business, and that it is their responsibility to preserve, maintain, and make the company grow until they pass the family business to the next generation. So for them, it is in fact a responsibility. This family believes that they are not the business owners, but the momentary keepers of these planetary jewels. So they really take this business very seriously. This understanding of property and businesses create a smooth business succession, and the key to family business legacy is the family values and the education of the next generation. So it's critically important, again, to be able to share values and, of course, to train the next generation in the proper way so that they'll be able to continue the business legacy. I know that you want to create a family business legacy that is fair and that is equitable. I also know that many parents want their children to be treated equally when it comes to family business planning. Parents who are concerned about family harmony are wise to address the issues of estate equalization as the key element of their estate and the business planning. Most of the problems that would create disharmony in their children can be handled with careful, thoughtful, with wills and trusts, for instance, doing business agreements that clearly dictate the legacy plan is important. So everybody is familiar with it. They know what it says. They know responsibility. They know what they're responsible for, and could, move in a way that accomplishes the entrepreneur's will. A very important step in a family business legacy is to have family meetings, for instance, to discuss the plans, to answer any questions from all sides, and to be able to share disagreements, to be able to discuss, to be able to explore things out of the box that perhaps the younger generation may have, to be able to allow them to express themselves and to create new ideas, I think is very important, because that is part of what's going to be moving the company forward. Having said all of that, my strong recommendation for you is to contact your estate planning attorney and other trusted advisors to help you create your will, any trust that you wish, any business agreements. For instance, many of my clients use life insurance as an example to accommodate children who have physical or mental disabilities, any addictions that they may have, or other self-destructive behaviors. So this life insurance allows the entrepreneur to be able to still create a fair and equitable plan for those children that are not going to be part of the business due to physical or mental disabilities that they may have, but they will still be, properly gifted with the proceeds of the life insurance. Insurance is used to create liquidity for the remaining state assets and to create a legacy for the children with disabilities. It's very important for the business owner to consult with a legal expert in your jurisdiction before creating a testamentary trust, for example. If you have a disabled child, in that way you make sure that that child is not disqualified from any government grants or any programs that he or she may benefit from. So a testamentary trust can be used very effectively when one or more members of the family require special attention, and when the beneficiary is not old enough, for instance, to legally own property, or is not equipped to control or to manage inheritance in a responsible manner. So testamentary trust might be a good way of handling that. The business owner can also set up a charitable trust to enable the trustees to be able to make tax-free donations, for instance, if you have younger children, for eligible schools. If you want to donate funds to a church or to a particular charity that you value, then this charitable trust will be a good tool to use. A charitable trust is an irrevocable trust established for charitable purposes, and the trust enjoys varying degrees of tax benefits. When considering life insurance to equalize your estate amongst your children, there are basically two types of life insurance policies. Most of you are familiar with the whole life insurance as well as with the term insurance, and there are reasons to use both. They serve different purposes. For instance, whole life insurance is typically more expensive than the term insurance, but the premium amount typically does not change throughout the life of the policy. So over time, this helps to make life insurance, whole life insurance, much more affordable. The payout to your beneficiary if you were to die during that coverage period is typically tax-free to your beneficiary, and it has a steady value throughout the life of the policy. That's an advantage of whole life insurance. The premium at the beginning could be a little higher. If needed, you may be able to access your money through loans for additional charge. So, for instance, I have had clients who have had whole life insurance for a number of years, and they may need some additional cash to start a new product within the organization. And what I have seen they do is they actually borrow from their cash that they have accumulated in their whole life insurance. So you can customize your whole life insurance policy with a variety of riders for an additional charge. Those riders will enable you to make some free choices later on as you may deem appropriate. So what about term insurance? Well, term insurance is a good option if you want to pay for life insurance during the time when your need is the greatest. For instance, when your kids are young, or if you're having a mortgage payment as an example. So let's say you're a family and you have a couple of young children, your business owner have a lot of responsibility, but something were to happen to you, you like to have the term insurance so that will help to give additional funds to help with pay the mortgage, as an example, if you still owe money if you purchase a home and still have a mortgage, or to provide monies for the children to continue to go to private schools, as an example. So this term insurance, they have different periods. You could do it for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years term insurance. So a term insurance policy can be converted into a permanent insurance policy at the end of the term. So let's say if you have a 10-year term and you feel like you like to convert that into whole life insurance, you could do that. So the benefits of the term insurance include guarantee level premium that remains stable for the duration of the term. And the payout that the benefit receives, the beneficiary receives, if you were to pass on during the coverage period, is typically also tax-free, and it has a steady value throughout the life of the policy. So something that is important to keep in mind when you are buying life insurance is to your ability to be able to choose the right beneficiary, right? The person or a particular entity, if you are a business owner. A person, it could be your wife, your children, or if you were to buy within, as your business owner, if your organization, the business buys a policy, you could use that as, key man insurance that basically provides liquidity for the business. So your beneficiary can be one or more than 1, 2, 3 people, depending on your family needs. Also, you could set up a trust where the proceeds would be, managed or administered by the trustee, or you could also create a charity for your estate. When you designate beneficiaries, you have the final say over who receives your death benefit. If you don't choose one, your estate laws determine who gets it and who wants, of course you don't want that, right? You want to make sure that you select the right beneficiary. You don't want the state to determine who is going to be the beneficiary of that policy. You work so hard to make those payments, you want to make sure that the proper beneficiary gets those funds. So your primary beneficiary is the first in line to receive your death benefit. If the primary beneficiary dies before you do, a secondary or contingent beneficiary is the next in line. So, for instance, you may want to have your wife or husband to be the primary beneficiary of your policy, and then your children to be the secondary beneficiary, and so on and so forth. So there is distinction again between the primary and the secondary beneficiary. Some questions that you will want to consider are, for instance, who will need extra money when you pass away, right? Are there some people who depend on you for financial support, as an example? People who will bear certain expenses at your death. Who will receive the proceeds if none of your beneficiaries were to survive you? Those are all important questions that you will be discussing with your insurance agent or your advisor to make sure that the policy is properly set up. Should your assets pass to the state, or would they be better off in a trust? Again, those are questions that need to be discussed, and they are very personal kinds of questions that are important to reflect and to implement. With most policies, you can change the beneficiaries at any time. So it's always recommended for you to review your policies on a regular basis. And don't forget to make appropriate changes when you have a life change. For instance, if you were to divorce and remarried, or if you were to have a new baby in the family. I mean, those are life events that you might want to consider changing the beneficiaries. Sometimes people don't review their policies and they have life changes, and it's not the right place to be at if the funds were to be given to somebody that you didn't mean to. So you don't have to figure all of this out by yourself. Please contact your insurance agent or your investment advisor or your attorneys to be able to discuss the specifics of your situation. Another insurance that you may want to consider is something called a universal life insurance, which provides permanent insurance protection and also provides you with the tax-deferred cash values. That coverage continues for your entire life. No need to renew the policy with higher premiums. Some universal policies can build cash value that you can access while you're still alive. Because situations change, universal life insurance policy does offer some flexibility. So as long as you remain within the set boundaries, you can change the protection levels of the policy and decide how frequently you want to pay premiums. So for instance, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're having a rough quarter or a rough year, and you may want to reduce some expenses, if you have universal life insurance, you could do that. You could decide how frequently the payments could be. As with most permanent insurance, the death benefit paid to the beneficiaries is not subject to income taxes. Likewise, the cash value you withdraw from your policy is also, tax-free. In the previous policy, when we were talking about whole life insurance, we said that one of the business owners had taken some cash value that he has accumulated in his whole life insurance to launch a new product, a new service. And so that insurance, whole life as well as universal, provides with that possibility. There's also something called a hybrid life product, and that is a product that I like as well because it is a combination of a universal life insurance with long-term coverage. So people like myself who are older, it's important to have that long-term care coverage. So I, for instance, happen to have one of this hybrid life insurance product that can provide cash value to help me cover the long-term care expenses. So again, that is a really nice aspect of the universal life insurance. You can change your protection level of the policy, and you can control the amount of the frequent payments. So it basically provides you flexibility. So the variable insurance is a permanent insurance policy that allows the ability to accumulate cash value and to provide control over investment options. So on a variable insurance, you will have a set of investments that you could actually invest in, and you have the freedom to choose based on your risk tolerance, whether you want to have a balanced portfolio, or you want to have a growth portfolio, or you want to have a combination of, short-term and long-term, or if you're a younger person, you want to be more aggressive with your investments. If you're an older person, you need to be more careful, and it usually is 60-40 split, where 60% of your investments is in a variable and 40% is in a fixed investment. So it really depends on your risk tolerance. And again, I ask you to contact your advisor to help you, because he will be working with you based on your risk tolerance and will be advising you accordingly. So the advantages of life insurance, I think, are greater than the disadvantages. So, for instance, term or whole life insurance can be purchased on an individual basis to provide funds for the surviving spouse or the children when death occurs. Whole life insurance can be purchased to provide income to the parents as retirement, as an example. That's another possibility. How that would work is that the proceeds of the insurance, the whole life insurance, can be converted into an annuity by withdrawing the cash value. So again, consult with your advisor on that as to what's the best way of managing those proceeds. Life insurance can provide dollars that can pass on as an inheritance to equalize your estate. We had mentioned that earlier. When you have children that need special help, they are not going to be part of the business, as an example. Life insurance provides you with that liquidity. Life insurance can also be used to provide funds for payment of state taxes. So, if you have any obligations at death, those funds could be used for that. Insurance will also provide, if you are a business owner, if you have an insurance that can provide you with additional funds to be able to acquire the business, if the business is owned by more than one parties, as an example. So there are many ways in which you could use insurance to provide liquidity for your business. So life insurance proceeds are paid to the beneficiaries, as we said earlier, and they are not considered income for tax purposes to the beneficiaries. So let's now talk about an irrevocable life insurance trust. A little more complex in terms of the way that it works, but again, working with your advisor will help you. First is to avoid having to include the death benefit in amount of life insurance that you own into your estate. So let's say you own $5 million policy and you don't want that to be included in your estate, then you create an irrevocable life insurance trust. So the trust owns the policy, and therefore the value is not included in your estate, and therefore you don't have to pay taxes upon death. Also, if your business entity purchases life insurance for the owner or the operator of the entity, the insurance can also be placed on an irrevocable life insurance trust. That prevents an individual from choosing to leave the entity from taking some of the insurance cash value with them. This insurance preserves the organization intact. The rules that are needed to be followed. For instance, the trust needs to be properly titled, and the irrevocable life insurance trust must have its own checking account, and the address on the policy must be that of the trustee. I mean, there are certain rules and regulations that you need to comply with. Therefore, again, consulting with your advisor is important to make sure that the trust is set up properly. So as you can see, life insurance plays a vital role in estate planning. it is important to coordinate all the aspects of your life with your overall estate plan. So you need to carefully analyze all factors before purchasing life insurance, depending on your family circumstances, either term or whole or trust might be the right way to go about it. So continue to evaluate your life insurance as a family for the state. Will you need it for your business needs? There are a lot of life changes, right? So again, it's important to always be reviewing what you currently have based on the life events that you have. And again, not to reemphasize or to reemphasize the point that I'm trying to make is make sure that you consult with the right individuals to help you, your advisor, your tax attorney, to help you with this process. So at this point, we will continue in our next session with this very important topic of estate planning. But at this point, I would like to thank you for tuning in to the Financial Legacy podcast here with me, Maria Ellis. To learn more about how to work with me, go to financiallegacy.live. Here at the Financial Legacy podcast, we're changing lives one person at a time to help you create and enjoy your financial success. Connect with us at financiallegacy.live for your complimentary consultation. Thank you.
In providing answers, neither Maria Ellis nor the Financial Legacy podcast and guest speakers are acting as certified financial planners, advisors, certified financial analysts, CPAs, economists, accountants, or lawyers. Neither Maria Ellis or the Financial Legacy podcast and guest speakers make any recommendations as to any specific securities or investments. All content is for informational and general purposes only and does not constitute as financial or legal advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and financial advisors regarding your particular situation. Neither Maria Ellis nor Financial Legacy podcast and guest speakers accept any responsibility for any loss that may arise from accessing or reliance from any information in this podcast. And to the extent permitted by law, we exclude all liabilities for any loss or damages derived directly or indirectly arising from the use of the information.